Good afternoon, everyone. I hope we all are well. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about equation of a line. So the equation of a line is y equals mx plus c. So just looking at this equation tells us a lot about a line. It tells us two things. Now, this m represents the slope of a line. And this c represents the y-intercept. Now you're probably wondering, what is a y-intercept? Well, all it essentially means is that the y-intercept is the line that intersects the y-axis. So that's all essentially is. So imagine you have a Cartesian plane right here, very rough sketch, and you have your line. To draw a line, you need two things. You need its slope, how steep it is, and its y-intercept. So where this line is cutting the y-axis. So you see here, now this is very badly drawn, then again it's a sketch. Here is where the line would be cutting the y-axis, and we also need to know the slope of a line. So those are the two things we need to know in order to draw a slope. Now, do you remember in the last video that I said there are two ways to figure out the slope? There's the equation, which is y2 take y1 all over x2 take x1, but there's another way. Rise over run. Now this is used when you already know the slope. So let's just draw a Cartesian plane, right? And if you were given the question, right, you're given this. Y equals 1 over 2x plus 5. Now I want you to think about that. How'd you solve for that? I'll give you a moment to think about it while I roughly sketch this.
A few moments later.
If you've noticed, this question is in kind of the form of this question, of this equation. Y equals mx plus c. But they've changed the m and they've changed the c. Well, for starters, we already know what the m and the c represent. The m represents the slope and the c represents the y-intercept. So how about let's write this equation underneath this question. Okay, so now we have it written out in front of us. So now if you start to interlink these two, you notice the m is under the 1 over 2 and the c is under 5. So could that tell us something? Well, we know that m represents slope. Okay, m represents slope. So we could write m is 1 over 2. And when we need to draw a line, we need our rise over run, right? We need to figure out its steepness. So that is equal to rise over run. Do you see why? Because this is our run. If we were to draw this on this graph, we would have to run across 2 times and rise it by 1. Do you see how they interlink? Now let's look at C. C, we know, is the y-intercept, and that is 5. Now let's just break down the y-intercept a little bit. Now, we know, I explained that the y-intercept is the line intersects the y-axis. Okay, so we know this is 5, okay? So we know that this would be around here, because this is the y-axis, and it would be around here. But what would that point be? It wouldn't just be 5. It would be, so here this point, remember plotting points, this would be 0, 5. This is our y-intercept, right? And we know that it's at 5. We have to say that that point is on 0, 5. Because the x, it's not on the x, it's fully on the y-axis itself. So it's not on the x, so the x is just 0. And the y is 5 because it's on the point 5. So that is 0, 5. So from this, right, this is very messy, I do apologize. From this question, it has given us y equals 1 over 2x plus 5. What have we gathered from that information? We now know that the slope is 1 over 2, which is rise over run. And the 5 represents the y-intercept, which is 0, 5. Using this information, can we draw this line? Yes, yes we can. Okay, when drawing a line, the first thing you need to do, people would rather say, okay, let's do the rise over run. No, the first thing that you need to do is your y-intercept. So, your y-intercept is always first. That is a star. When drawing your line, your y-intercept is always first. So, we know our y-intercept is at 0, 5. Let's do a little dot there. And our run is 2 over 1. So let's move 2 spots. 1, 2. And let's move up 1, 1. Okay. Now we draw our line. Now we draw our point. So now do you see these 2 points? Now we can draw our line. So we're going to just use these to draw our line. And as you know, a line is ongoing, so it goes all the way on the graph. And that is our line. Now, let's double check our answer. Okay, let's look at the rise over run. So here's where it intersects the y-axis. It goes over 1, 2, and it goes over once. So we know that our slope, 1 over 2, is correct. Now let's look at our y-intercept. Where does this line cut the y-axis? It cuts it at 0, 5. So 0, 5. Now let's look back at this question. Y equals 1 over 2 x plus 5. Before you finish the question, you need to name your line. So this is your line, right? But you just name it. Right beside this line, you just put it in small letters. Y equals 1 over 2 x plus 5. And that's your line. On to another question. All right, kind of running out of space here. Question 2. If we were asked y equals minus 2x plus 2. What have we done in the last question? In the last question, we wrote down the equation underneath the question. So let's do that again. So y is equal to mx plus c. Okay, so let's write out our slope and y-intercept. So our m is basically our slope. Let's just write that down. Try and get it into our heads. M represents slope. So here it's showing us that our slope is minus 2. See, it's there we go. Minus 2 is our slope. But wait a minute. Our slope represents rise over run, doesn't it? It's given us in a full number form. We need it in a fraction form. Now, do you know how to put a whole number into a fraction form? Let me break it down for you. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I were to ask you to count to 4, right? That's how you'd put it. But what if you were to say to put these numbers in a fraction form? You would simply just put it all over 1. Simply by doing that, it shows that this whole number is in a fraction form. Now, you wouldn't go up to me and be like, okay, let me count to 4. 1 over 1, 2 over 1, 3 over 1, 4. You wouldn't do that. You just simply go 1, 2, 3, 4. But this is the way how you would put it in a fraction form. You simply just put a 1 underneath it. So, this minus 2 is minus 2 over 1. That is how we put it in a fraction form. Rise over run. So our rise is -2, minus 2, and our run is 1. Now let's look at our y-intercept. So c is equal to y-intercept. All right, so our y-intercept is 2. Now remember what I said. Y-intercept is where that line intersects at the y-axis. So it isn't just 2, it is 0, 2. X, Y, that's where it cuts at the 2. 0, 2. Now let's plot this on a graph. All right, so
One eternity later.
let me just rewrite the question. Y equals minus 2x plus 2. So we know our slope is minus 2, which is minus 2 over 1. So that will be our rise over run. And our y-intercept is 0, 2. Remember, 0, 2. Do not forget that. All right, so if we were to plot this, remember how I said the y-intercept is always first. This is always first. So let's go at 0, 2. Here we are. Let's draw a little dot there. Now we have minus 2 over 1. So we know that our run goes first. So let's go 1 across. Now, this is minus 2. Okay, so instead of going upwards, we're going downwards since it's a negative. So 1, 2. There we are. Right in front of that 1. How pleasant is that? Now we're going to draw our line with the 2 points given. Now let me ask you a quick question. Do you remember what a negative and a positive line looks like? So, a negative and a positive line. So a positive line goes this way, but a negative line goes this way. So what line is this? This is a negative line because our rise over run is negative. Okay, so you can do y equals minus 2x plus 2. If you are given the question, y equals x plus 3. Well, let's write out our equation again. Y equals mx plus c. Okay, we have our y-intercept. We know that our y-intercept is 0, 3. Our x, well, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't know why that x is there. I think it's just there for the crack. And then this m, oh, it just disappeared. It left us. Well, I don't know where it went, but we're going to figure it. We're going to find it. Now, if this m is gone, do you think our slope is just 0? If our slope was 0, we're not looking for that. We're looking for a line that has a gradient, has a steepness to it. So we can't just say, okay, that's 0. No. You see, this variable has the value of 1. Now, I know that sounds quite confusing because you're like, Alison, you're wrong. This variable is unknown. We don't know the value of it. But in this case, really, it's quite hard to put it into words, but really, we don't know what it is, so we're just going to put a 1 there. Putting this 1 here because we don't know. This m is completely gone. But at the same time, we can't just say that it's 0. And we can't just put an m in there, just for the fun of it. It has to be a number. We can't just say our slope is m. Like, that's just saying your slope is slope because m represents slope. But we're just going to put our m as 1. It's a very funky looking 1. All right, so let's just go with the flow. M is equal to 1. Now remember, our slope needs to be in the fraction form. So remember what I said? Now all we're going to just do is 1 over 1. So we already know that's our, I'm running out of space, rise over run. All right. Now, how about, then again, I'm going to...
2 hours later.
So remember when plotting a line, we're going to do our y-intercept first. So 0, 3, so that is right here. Our slope is 1 over 1. So our rise over run, we're going to run across 1. Now, I know I skipped 1 because this 3 is very ginormous. And our rise is 1, so we're going to rise 1. Now, we're going to put our dot there. Now, we have 2 dots. Now, let's make a line. Now, we're just going to quickly. There we go. And that is our line. It's very beautiful, isn't it? I'm going to give a step-by-step process on how to draw a line. So, first thing you need is, so to draw a line, you need a slope and y-intercept. 2. So when given the equation, of a line, write y equals mx plus c underneath it. Now, the reason why I would say for you to do this is because if you were given a question, for example, okay, let me just write y equals 4 over 5 x plus 3. Now, we already know how to solve for this, don't we? 4 over 5 is our slope, 4 over 5, and our y-intercept is 0, 3. Now, the reason why I put y equals mx plus c, usually, underneath the question is because it gives us the indication, okay, there's our y, there's our slope, and then moving on, we're going to ignore the x, sadly. And that's my y-intercept. It just gives you a clear indication on what is what. Now, third step is to plot your y-intercept first. Intercept. So this is our, basically, just to put in simple words, this is our starting point in a way, just to get us going. If I'm having it, for example, here, this is my y-intercept, and obviously then I need the slope, because I can't just be given the slope. Okay, well, just I know the steepness of it, but I need to know where it is. Anyways, so step 4, so it's to use rise over run. So rise over run, so always use run first. Remember the little man, the little person that I always use in my videos? This little person is always running across and then up the hill. Step 5. So then simply just join the 2 points. That really is all it is. If you have here's your y-intercept. There we figured out that's the slope. We go up. Okay. Then we do, a line. And that's our line. And then at the end, I would say name your line. I would say name your line, because then again, it needs a name. It's just sad if it doesn't. So the slope formula, is y2 take y1 all over x2 take x1. We use this formula if we are given 2 points, and we don't know the slope. You have to figure out the slope by using the information that you already have with these 2 points. Now, for example, I had the point A, which is 2 and 2, and B consisted of 3, 5. We label our coordinates. So x1, y1, x2, y2. All right, now let's put that into the formula. So let me just write out the formula again, just clearly, just to be here. So y2 is that a 5? Yes, that is a 5. 5 take y1 is 2 all over x2, which is 3, take x1, which is 2. 5 take 2, that is 3. 3 take 2 is 1. Now, do we notice something about this? We can simplify that to 3. Because 3 in a fraction form is 3 over 1. And this is 3 over 1. So that's what the slope would be for these 2 points. But the thing is that what if you are already given the slope and you need to put it on a graph? Well, that's when the rise over run comes in. When doing rise over run, now firstly, remember how I said you have your Cartesian plane, and you need to use your rise over run. For example, this is your 3, yeah? Let's just use this of rise over run. For example, 3 over 1, right? That's your rise over run. But you can't just plot that. Then again, I'm saying it again because that's how people mix it up. And I feel like it's probably the easiest way for people to know that when plotting a line, when drawing a line, you need your y-intercept first. So when doing this rise over run, you need y-intercept. Example, 3, right? 3 over 1. You already have your slope, but you need your y-intercept. So what would your y-intercept be? And that's how you figure it out. So that is kind of the difference between these two. If it is confusing, please comment down below. I'd be more than happy to help. That is that. Thank you for watching.